Orchard. It's about half an hour until the sun goes down, and I'm here to talk to you about the rune Ehwaz. We've now gone past the eastern point on the runic wheel. Spring is well and truly here. Everywhere I look, things are lush and verdant. There's greenery everywhere, the birds are singing, the lambs are bleating, as you can hear. And it's about half an hour until the sun sets here in Glastonbury, so I will try not to talk for too long, although of course there is a lot to say about this rune. We'll look at some of the aspects of it. As you can see, I'm on my own. Carolina, unfortunately, has had a situation where life has got in the way of spiritual pursuits. And it's a shame really, because apart from the fact that we're not going to have any astrology today, some of the energies of this rune, what this situation is the complete opposite of the energy of this rune, so it's kind of ironic in a way. So this is a rune which doesn't appear in the younger Futhark. In the Uthark, its position is particularly relevant, I feel, where it's the 18th rune. So this is the rune of the horse. This is how it translates. And if we look at the shape, and I do have it on my hand, we can see it's kind of reminiscent of two horses with their heads together. So this is a rune of teamwork, which I said this is why it's obviously not good that Carolina's not here today. It's teamwork where two beings come together for a goal, where they work together. They work harmoniously together. So this is a rune which is sometimes associated with marriage, but this isn't just about romantic relationships. This is a rune about any kind of relationship where two people, two entities of any type, work together towards a goal. So it's teamwork, but without a loss of identity. So here we can be looking about relationships between two things. So we can obviously be looking at the relationship between the horse and the rider. We can be looking at the relationship between the body and the soul, between man and his helwegr, which we'll come to, even between man and woman. As I said, it can represent marriage. So we know from the writings of Tacitus that horses are the most sacred animal in the northern tradition, and Tacitus tells us how white horses were kept in special groves. They weren't used for any type of work, but they were used for divination, and it was said that the horses could interpret messages from the gods and could pass those messages on to humans. So they would be looking for various actions within the horses to determine what was going to happen, and they were often used to predict the outcome of wars and battles. So we also see there is obviously a horse cult, and we see the horse very definitely associated with death. Within many burials, horses are included, and quite often horses were decapitated, chopped into pieces. I know that sounds horrible, but that's what some of the archaeology has shown with different burials from the Viking period. So it's an animal very definitely associated with death. And if we look at Sleipnir, and I mentioned Sleipnir, but possibly being associated, the creation of Sleipnir possibly being associated with the last rune, Bakana. I think it's true that Sleipnir is definitely associated with this rune, and as we know, he is Odin's steed, and he is the horse which is used to make the journey along the helwegr, the hell paths, down to Helheim. Odin obviously rode him down to hell, as did Hermod. He is able to travel between the 9 worlds, but in particular we see references to him travelling to Helheim. So Odin is one of the gods associated with this rune. And as I said, its position in the Uthark, we can see it connected to the 18 rune charms of Odin. So this is a rune. Sorry, there are gnats everywhere this evening. I'm being bitten. This is a rune which we can use to help us to journey into the dark, into the realms of hell. It is a rune very much associated with witchcraft and with seidr. So it has very, very strong occult connections here. And I mentioned the connection between man and his fylgja. And it's said in Old Norse, I'm just going to check I'm reading it right, Ma er man's fylgja, which means the horse is man's fylgja. So the fylgja, I've spoken before about how there are 9 soul forms in the Northern tradition, and the fylgja is one of those. It translates as something like follower and fetch. You know, the witch's familiar, which is kind of where that whole thing comes from, or the fetch, which is used in witchcraft. Now, I guess the best way to describe the fylgja, it's not the same as a power animal or a dee or helpan in Anglo-Saxon. It's part of the soul, but it's like a guardian, and there's different types of fylgja. Every individual has a fylgja, but there's also fylgjas who look after a family or a clan, and they're known as kin fylgja, and they're kind of inherited fylgjas, and they basically watch over you and protect you. And obviously the magician needs to have a good connection with their fylgja. And the fylgja is said to appear in 3 different forms: the form of an animal, the form of a human in the opposite sex, or as a kind of an abstract form which is sometimes shown as geometric shapes and lights and colours. Now, I certainly know that my fylgja appears to me as a male. I've read somewhere that people say that fylgjas are always female. I don't agree with that. I definitely know that mine is shown to me in a male aspect. So again, this shows that this rune is very strongly connected with witchcraft and the occult. And if it comes up in a rune reading, it can be to do with messages from people who have passed into spirits. That is one interpretation of this rune. So going back to the teamwork, this rune is also a rune of intuition. Now, I'm not an experienced horse rider, gnats everywhere or anything. I had a go on my friend's horse when I was a teenager, wasn't very successful. I went riding in a pair of cut-off denim shorts and chapped my inner thighs. Won't be doing that again, I can tell you. But as I understand it, that there is a real intuitive connection between horse and rider, where the sum of the 2 parts become greater than the 2 individuals. And this rune can be about intuitive connections, and you can have this between 2 people when one person will start the sentence and the other person will finish it. And I actually had a situation at the weekend where a friend of mine, a friend who I've met purely because of the runes, haven't seen her for ages, but she came to see me, and she just knew she had to come and see me on this particular situation. And it just turned out that on that particular day I needed her and I needed her help. So it's kind of I think she was obviously tapping into the powers of Ehwaz, and she knew intuitively that I needed her at that time. So that's kind of interesting. It's also a rune of absolute trust and loyalty, that connection you can have with someone where you trust them implicitly. So it's about, obviously it's a connection between 2 things where you understand that there is give and take. You work together for a common aim, and you work harmoniously with each other. So as well as the association with Odin and Sleipnir. This rune also has connections with divine or heroic twins, and I've spoken before about Alkis, which is mentioned by Tacitus, two male twins who are connected with horses that were worshipped by some of the Germanic tribes. And we've also again got the connection with the god Frey here, the Vanir god of fertility. And it may very well be that the horse was part of a fertility cult. In some of the sagas we hear about a horse's penis which was venerated and worshipped, and which is obviously has connections with the seidr religion. So we can see all sorts of hints written about the importance of horses, their connection with fertility, which obviously I've always said that the runes flow with each other, and we saw that Bakana had connections with witchcraft and also fertility, and we see some of that in this rune as well. Yeah, so it's an interesting rune, a rune which you can definitely work with to access some of the deeper, darker realms and the mysteries contained there. So it does have, although I've said it's associated with Odin and Frey, which are obviously both gods, it does have connections with the dark feminine. So yeah, unfortunately, as I said, we've got no astrology for you today. I can tell you it's a full moon tomorrow, but that is about as far as my knowledge extends. So I think we're just going to go straight on to the Galdr now, because it's getting dark. As you can see, the sun is setting rapidly, and so I'll just grab my drum. I say my drum, I've actually brought a different drum along with me today. I thought as it's twilight I would bring this drum, a barn owl drum, which I've just painted. I'm not going to keep it, it's for sale, so if you want to buy it, go to my website. Shameless plug there. So let's tune in now with the powers of Ehwaz and see what we get as the sun sets. I'm really sorry about that. I've got my dog with me, and he just decided to move around and pull the camera down, which wasn't exactly according to plan. But this is a rune connected with the animal kingdom, and I do have part of the animal kingdom here with me. Ben, come here. Ben! Come here. Good boy. And so maybe that was meant to happen. So, sorry about that. This was not the most successful Galdr session in the world, but I found it difficult to connect there because I was constantly aware of a whining dog, and I could hear him moving around, and he doesn't like Galdr, apparently. Do you? Or drumming, cheeky animal. Just listening to the sound of dusk. So I hope that was enough Galdr there for you to connect with the rune. I do hope Carolina will be back with us next time when we move on to Manars. And thank you to everyone who has subscribed. We do appreciate it. It is good to hear your feedback and your comments. And do join us next time. Maybe I'll do a little bit more Galdr now and hope that my dog doesn't try to wreck it for us. Bye. My dog doesn't like my drumming. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.